I've said before that I felt that the middle-class tax cuts were being held hostage to the high-end tax cuts. I think it's tempting not to negotiate with hostage takers, unless the hostage gets harmed.
New details are out this morning revealing why an ex-con opened fire at a school board meeting in Florida before turning the gun on himself. 56-year-old Clay Duke left a suicide note on his Facebook page. He blamed the wealthy for what he did. We're about to show you the video, but first we want to warn you, it is extremely disturbing.
This is a problem. Please don't. Please don't. Please. I'm going to kill you. Don't you understand? I don't want to happen. I don't want anybody to listen. Just listen to me for a minute. I don't want
Duke, shot by a security guard, fell to the ground before turning the gun on himself. He complained to the board and superintendent. His wife was fired by the school system. In his Facebook diatribe, he portrayed himself as the victim of an unfair system, saying, "The government-sponsored media will say I was evil, a monster. No, I was just born poor in a country where the wealthy manipulate, use, abuse, and economically enslave 95% of the population." 10 years ago, Duke spent 4 years behind bars for shooting the tires of his wife's car. That was after he confronted her wearing a mask and bulletproof vest.
Ooh.
Yeah. Coming up at 7 o'clock, we'll be joined live by the superintendent who had that gun pointed directly in his face and lived to tell the story.
Well, clearly, it is taking the middle class hostage and saying that not a word can be changed by the House of Congress that the Constitution says is supposed to write the whole bill. Shows such a disregard for middle-class families and such a disregard for the U.S. Constitution.
From the long term, there are really three major problems that I see with this. Firstly, the Republican blackmail here, they're really saying like a bunch of gangsters, that's a nice middle-class tax cut you got over there, pity if something would happen to it, and unless you give the millionaires and the billionaires a long-term tax cut, we're not going to permit the middle class to get its, to continue its tax cut. But that millionaires and billionaires tax cut will cost $700 billion added to the deficit over the next 10 years, which we can't afford. Now, I know that this is a 2-year extension, but if we succumb to that blackmail now, when both the middle class and the upper end tax cuts expire in 2 years in the middle of a presidential election, why would I expect that the president and the Congress would then have the political gumption not to submit again to the Republican blackmail and in effect permanentize this? So I believe that voting for this now may be to permanentize these upper-end tax cuts at $700 billion a decade, which would be the culmination of a 30-year Republican plan to starve the beast, to